Hello, everyone. This is Bitcoin Design Guide Jam session number 33. And look at this, these nice three here, number 33, and then this is issue 333 in this repository. Pretty amazing. What a coincidence. What a special day. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for anyone who listens on this on YouTube afterwards. Hey, Daniel. Hey, Sid. I think you might be new, unless it's John's under a hidden name or someone else. Just chime in if you like. And otherwise, our usual thing we do is we go over this roadmap, and we currently only have 3 outstanding issues right now, 2 in progress, 3 all in different sort of progress, trying to wrap up milestone 16, our never-ending milestone. And I think there's some details to discuss there. But is there anything else I put together here? Also, a couple of points. Mo, you created a case study proposal for Blix that you may want to get feedback on. Somebody created an issue around sats. I don't know how important that is, or it can be just discussed. Then there was this personas thing, Stephen, and you were also part of that call, right? UX call, research call.
I was on that one.
Yeah, and the idea there was you were discussing about how to add personas to the guide. So it's something you can also
I mean, really, it was really more of just like a kind of design jam session about how to get personas and how to like conduct the research. I mean, I don't remember actually getting to the point where we were like, okay, where in the guide would we put this?
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, maybe I'm just connecting things because we have this 1-year-old issue in the guide about personas.
Yeah,
and maybe that could all fit nicely together.
That's I posted in the research channel. I tried to because Stephen was on the call as well. I tried to kind of make a very loose write-up about how to put together personas. And at the bottom, I linked to Patricia's one. That's in the research channel at the moment. So hoping a couple of guys chime in there and we jointly write this page together. It would be absolutely amazing.
Okay. Any other topics you want to add for today?
No, looks good to me.
Okay, then why don't we start with the 2 most active pull requests right now. The more long-standing one, Bosch, that's your receive page. And looking at it earlier, let me switch over here in my background. So this is a receive page about receiving Bitcoin, which generally is not that complex. Ideally, it's like, oh, you received Bitcoin, there it is. But a few things can go wrong, and there's some other details to consider. And one of the issues that is worth some discussion here, I think Stephen had a few points here as well, is around, let's say you receive on-chain, but your wallet tries to swap it to Lightning, it somehow fails, then what happens with these Bitcoin? Will we be stuck in limbo? And then Bosch introduced the idea of the refund, and there was discussion around that. I briefly read over Stephen's comments, but how do we want to go? Do you want to discuss this here? Can we quickly resolve this in the call? Or
I did reply to it. If you scroll up a little bit, this is a pretty big, long reply for me.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess it was more so like I kind of just proposed, I guess, a way to word it, maybe use a different term as refund, because that's not entirely accurate. It's accurate in some scenarios, because if someone else is paying you and you want to refund the payment back if you don't want to try it again. But most likely you'd probably just retry it again, which you'd want to manually do because it's going to cost you some sats to do that. But yeah, it was just, I guess where I went wrong with it a bit, I think I was just reading the docs a little bit wrong, because in like you read all the builder's guide docs for LND and like how the swap contract works, it's generally, it talks about it in the context of you're doing the swap yourself and you have the keys to claim the funds back to yourself if you want. But say in the context of like this wallet and Breeze, you're most likely sharing a swap address with a third party, and then they're sending you money. So the way it's kind of done is a little bit different from how it's laid out in a lot of the swap docs. So that was my bad and not completely understanding that. I kind of need to talk to Roy about how they do it, because they do refunds. That's where I kind of got this idea from. But as the user so you receive the payment gets sent from the third party, gets to Breeze. I'm using Breeze for this example. And then if the contract doesn't go through after the time lock expires, you can claim the funds back. But it's the user that can claim the funds back. So the funds must come in from the third party, and then the user must somehow create the contract with Breeze for them, because you can only reclaim that if you're the person who created the contract. And yeah, there's a bit of technical complexity there that I'm obviously not going to go into in the guide, but I'm just kind of trying to air this out so it just makes sense, because that's kind of why I was, I guess, explaining it wrong. Yeah, so it's a user that claims the fund back, and they can either the two options, like to summarize that, we could either just have like a button that says retry again, and that will just pull the money out of the contract and then just send it again to the swap service provider and just reattempt it. And then if it fails, they can do that again. Or they can have the option, which I think should be maybe just like maybe as a set, like a big button that just says something like retry. And there should be another option to enter an address manually, which is probably the not so happy path, and maybe it's for the more advanced users, or the refund kind of options if they need to do that. But I think both of those do need to exist, just in case you do need to send it externally if you don't want to continue through with it. Maybe you don't want to pay the extra fees or attempt to do it again if it failed for some reason. But the happy path, should just be retry again. So that summarizes that pretty much.
I went there pretty deep. Do you still have to pay the fee if it doesn't work?
I'm pretty sure, because the contract's just a special on-chain address, and to redo it again, you're going to have to pull it out of that contract and then resend it to a new contract, which is just another fancy on-chain address. I presume is just another on-chain payment, which you'll be paying in that case, not the third party, because now the sats are in kind of control by you. So
yeah, my understanding of it is that you wouldn't have to pay, like a lightning fee, because the lightning payment ended up failing, right? The swap failed, so the lightning payment failed. You do have this on-chain Bitcoin at the end of it, though, and so if you spend that, you would need to incur on-chain fees, but I don't think you'd have to actually pay the swap fee.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I see where you're coming from, Bosch. I think here's what I think. I think with the retry, it may not be consultant engineer to be accurate on this, but I don't think it would be as complicated as we might think, because it seems to me like that could just be something in the front end code of the app itself that just is like, okay, next time they open the app, automatically ping the LSP and try to do a swap or something like that. Like it seems like it could just be something in the front end that's set to retry that stuff. It also, I guess, another thing what I was thinking about from the refund end was like, if the swap fails, the on-chain Bitcoin can just go back to the user's, like I said, the local on-chain wallet for this Lightning wallet. So, the user still has custody of it. It's there. It's already there. It's like, it's not really going to be like, it's not really like a harm if it's sitting there on chain. Ultimately, we want to get it over to Lightning so they can spend it quickly, but it's still there, like in their wallet. So it seems like from a terminology perspective, we're not saying like, oh, you're like refunding or getting a refund for something. It's like, we're really just saying like, do you want to send this somewhere else on chain? So yeah, I don't know. I might be drilling down too hard there at the refund word, but
yeah, I think
maybe it's something we're talking.
I changed my mind on the refund thing. I just went back to
you.
what Breeze was going, but I think I'll reword that. You guys have any suggestions? If not, I'll think of something up to probably tomorrow morning.
But, yeah, I absolutely agree with you that we need to think about these like edge cases and all of that for what if it does fail.
Yeah.
So on that front, movie, do you okay? So it sounds like you're looking for feedback on that. I'll put my thinking cap on there and message you some suggestions or ideas on that, and then just let me know when you're ready for another review on that PR.
Yeah, just comment on that PR and that comment I made and I'll check it in the morning and get to it. I have some ideas, but yeah, probably avoid using refund and yeah. But like yeah, but how it kind of is working in this scenario here, like the funds are on chain. You just don't. It just doesn't show it as like its own kind of balance. Like if you click that little triangle, and then you click on the triangle and you claim refund, like, and it says the 21,000 sats. Those sats are on the local on-chain wallet, but it's just on the UI layer. It's not shown as like on the main balance, like in the 25,000. It's kept separate. But yeah, that all sounds good. Yeah.
Do you want more feedback on this PR?
It's a pretty small page. Like, feel free to read over it. Like, give it once over. Like, I think this is about the third or fourth time we've kind of gone over it. So I think most, like, all the little kind of things and glaring problems are addressed. But you're more than welcome to. But I think once that's addressed,
I meant for other people here too.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, for others as well. The larger group, if they want to. Or if you just want to wrap this one up.
Yeah, I reckon we can wrap it up because then that's the last. It's the second last issue for this milestone, and then we can get to the prototype.
Yeah, cool. And we use the same header image here for both of these requesting and receiving pages. Somebody wants to make a lovely header illustration. Here's one of your chances. Feel free to do so if you'd like. Anything else with the receive PR, or just this one issue and then we're good to go?
No, it's all good, but that's something else. If we get time, we should just talk about that header image, because I did mention a while ago about using that old style that we had with the kind of timeline based thing. Like, we could use that again and just do that image there and just add the new pages and make sure the order's correct and just reuse that throughout the reference design again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for reference, in the original version of a lot of, I forgot what this old structure was, but there was basically a sequence that represents, the first use, I think. So user creates a wallet, then they deposit Bitcoin, then they either do cloud backup or manual backup, then they look in their security, and then there was, I forgot what the last one here was, but it was meant to illustrate kind of how the user moves through this wallet. And because we reorganized pages here, there are pages like activity that just look totally different right now. So we could try to streamline it.
It was originally because it was specifically talking about onboarding, and so it was like step one of onboarding, step two, and I think it made sense to go in that kind of like cyclical format. I mean, but now it's like we're kind of approaching the topic less as like a ordered step one, step two, step three kind of thing. So my preference would be we just let the art for each page be individual and unique, and we could open these up as good first issues for new contributors.
And I think we have several open issues for header images. If someone, I'll tackle those on it. Banner image for resources, banner image for design source files. Those are fun to do. You kind of need a break from technical things sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And that could just be like, the next milestone, get some of those header images chucked in there.
Okay, cool. Then next PR is updated daily spending wallet landing page. Stephen, this is yours, and you just set it up a couple days ago. Would you like to tell us about this PR?
Yeah, so this is one I had originally started mocking up in Figma at the beginning of the process when we started this milestone, and kind of just been punting it until we kind of had more material to work with. But the basic idea is that, so I'm looking at the deploy preview now, it would replace this page right here. And the idea is to kind of set up what the idea of reference design is. And it's like, hey, we're building a daily spending wallet. We're going to quickly and easily send small quantities, kind of highlight some of the main features of it, have like a, overview of topics we're covering, explain what a reference design is. Hey, it's kind of a complete design for a Bitcoin product. You can use it to build your own similar product, all of that kind of stuff. And then this would be the link here to the actual Figma prototype, where you can actually click all the buttons and draw different flows. And then we kind of bring up the idea of alternate options, like, hey, we're kind of taking this product, you know, we've made some design decisions and technical decisions about this product to make it all work together cohesively. If you're trying to build something different, you know, swap out the pieces you don't like for things you do like. And we've kind of provided you with alternate options on the different pages of, like, you know, other solutions for problems. And here's a chapter list with kind of some upgraded stuff and all of that. So kind of the main blocker for this page at the moment is needing a revised prototype. And so if you click this prototype link right now, this takes you to an old one. And this was one that I had done way earlier in the year when we were originally kind of like wrapping up the first round of Lightning. And I mean, I kind of schlepped this together very quickly, but it was basically inspired by the work that Daniel had done originally back when we were still calling these things case studies. And I just kind of took what he did and what we were doing in the Lightning section and some of what you were doing in the UI kit, Christoph, and just kind of tried to combine those ideas together. So point is, this prototype is way outdated just because the UI kit's changed since then. Some of the you know, ways that we're, you know, solving problems in the daily spending wallet has changed since then. So we need to get the prototype to basically reflect everything that's happening on all these pages that you know, running my cursor over right now. And I think, Christoph, you said you had wanted to take the lead on that because you wanted to make sure it matched what you were doing in the UI kit. But I'm also happy to help with that if you need some help with that. So that's where we're at with this PR.
I reckon it's pretty good. I did the 2 reviews in the Google Doc, but I looked over it briefly and I don't think it changed much since then. So I didn't have a whole lot to add. I'll do probably once over tomorrow and probably just, yeah, tick it off. It looks good to me.
Awesome. Yeah, I also read through it several times. I think it looks really good. I guess the only thing was at the bottom of the page. I was thinking, like, what do we say at the bottom of the page to kind of get people into the first page? But that's, I don't know, if that's a really big deal or not. But Stephen, like you said, you know, here for anyone tuning in, here's a Figma file as a preparation file for where we reviewed some of the landing pages, we took notes and whatnot. And these are all the screens, like 150 screens in this reference design. And we need to make sure they're consistent and they're actually fit together to some type of prototype nicely. So that's where that chunk of work is, that will be hidden behind that nice little, oh, check out this prototype button on this landing page. So, and because I said that I can do that because a lot of this stuff is based on the UI kit. I recently revised the UI kit to use the component properties and some other stuff. So it would be good if I built this prototype with the UI kit and the learnings, the consistency stuff from doing that, let that flow back into the UI kit. So we always have this back and forth. I think that makes sense. And it should not be too crazy with a little bit of like focus time.
Oh, just something I wanted to bring up that relates to this is that issue that I opened a while ago about redoing the landing page at the start of the website. I'll just share my screen real quick. It's probably easier to explain it that way. Just give me 2 secs.
Do you have what is it called? Do you have a number so I can pull it up for reference?
Actually, I don't know the number off the top of my head. You type landing.
While you're doing that, I'm looking at the landing page for the mobile or the spending wallet now. It looks really good. I think the one very minor comment I had was that I'm looking at it on a mobile device, and the alignment of the kind of icon images below the first paragraph says Bitcoin only self-custodial, mobile, etc. They feel a bit weirdly aligned on mobile. Either they should be more left aligned, or maybe they should be center aligned. Tiny gripe.
Got it. Thanks, Daniel.
It's awesome that is the only point of criticism.
Oh yeah, so
It's been pretty good shape.
yes, the point I haven't I need to get back to that issue, but the main idea of the issue, which did you bring up just then, Christoph? Yeah, the design guide landing page. It would be good to have some kind of like styling, like there was a few just ideas in there, but need to like think of something. And then that kind of like card type styling, something along those lines anyways, not exactly that one in that issue. I think we should kind of do on these landing pages as well, because I feel like these list form right here, like see this list of just pages. I think we could just make it look a bit nicer and maybe just have like, you know, 2 cards kind of next to each other and like maybe use the header image for those pages just to make it look a bit more like, I don't know, designed. And it would also make the page a little bit shorter if you had 2 next to each other. You might be limited on a copy if you do that, but we can play around with how to style the cards and stuff like that. But it's just one thing I think would just make it kind of look a bit nicer.
That could be fun. Let me try that out.
Yeah, if you have any ideas, share it in that in the landing page issue as well, because they're like every landing page would be good to have some like consistent patterns throughout those landing pages.
Yeah.
These lists, and yeah, we'll go from there. But I just thought I'd bring that up. We won't go on that too long, but I'm going to get around to playing around with some designs for that again soon too.
No, that could make it really easy too, because we already have a 16:9 a preview image, like for social in the metadata of every page. So it could like kind of very easily repurpose that same image. Well, I might want to do a scaled down one, but anyways, I'm getting into details. Their point is it could like use that same kind of aspect ratio image for every page and just use that there to make it more visual.
Yeah, for sure. Like here's the material free. They like have like these cards probably a bit small, but like this is kind of that card kind of style. When you go through their design system, they have all these like cards for the pages, a bit of copy, image, heading, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not a huge fan, I think this material website is pretty horrendous. I think it looks ugly and the information architecture is crappy. There are like full pages where all you see is like 4 links on the whole page and just lots of gray boxes. I don't think it's particularly good. And also the information architecture, it's like you get started, then you all see all kinds of featured and popular stuff. It's like it's not getting you started, right? I think it's I don't know. I'm not a huge fan, so I would just ask if you please don't, like make it feel more styled. I mean, please approach this from a content first perspective. Mock it up with real ad content you have on it. From top to bottom, indicate like it. The is getting started, leads them to the right places, and all of this stuff. And yeah, go nuts. But I clicked around this earlier too, and it's like here, like okay, you see. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you have lots of rectangles, but
no, that was mine. That was you'll breaking up then for me as well.
Yeah. Okay, enough ranting here. Let's be positive.
But I totally get the gist of what you're saying, Christoph. I mean, don't make it look pretty and place and sacrifice the making sure that the content is hard to don't make the content hard to find just to make it pretty.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Yeah.
One on a kind of on like a project management note, Christoph, one thing I wanted to ask you about was just like with the work you're doing with making those landing pages consistent. In terms of my PR, would you like to keep the PR open until your prototype, your consistent prototype is ready, or would you like me to go ahead and remove the link to the prototype block so we can get it merged? Because I know you've been itching to get this milestone. So I could just take that out temporarily, get it merged, and then we can add in your prototype later in the next milestone. Do you have any preference?
I would put the page live. You would put in the note that the prototype is in progress. Here's a link to the PR or something. But I would just go for it.
Okay.
I don't
so
know
then
what
I'll just
everyone else think.
Well, pending comments from everybody else, I go ahead and say I'm fine with that, and I can, like I said, I'll update the PR to account for the fact that the prototype is still under construction, and then I'll open up a new issue for, add completed prototype to landing page, and punt that to the next milestone.
Sounds good to me.
Cool. Well, that's all I got on my PR. Unless anybody else has any questions or comments on what I'm working on there. All right, cool. Should we move on to the next topic, Christoph?
Yeah, let's do it. Let me see. What do I have here? So prototype, requesting, follow-up. Bosch, you had mentioned for the follow-up you wanted to, or for the requesting page, there was some follow-up you wanted. It's just a note that I had in my stuff, my files.
Oh yeah, I'll add that image back in tomorrow. I need to do that.
And then, do we want to talk about personas or Mo, the case study that you were suggesting, or did we want to do something else, like talk about milestone 17, or what's everyone's preference?
I'd love to talk about personas.
Okay, woke up and let's talk about personas.
So we had yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to set the context here, which we have this issue about personas, and this initial one, Patricia is devout. It was really great, like 20,000 word research in I think beginning of last year. You can see here, super good research. And the idea then was, how do we can integrate her research into the design guide? And there were some discussions after it a little bit, but we haven't had anything active there. And I think Diana also recently mentioned that she would love to have this. And then there was this call on Friday, which is around the topic of personas. And there was another UX research called before. The first one was also about personas, I think. So I think this has been kind of floating around in different places, but nothing has been formalized yet. So now, hope that gives some context for anyone listening. So please, Mo, pick it up.
Yeah, I guess we had the call on Friday and we all just jammed on Figma, and everyone kind of came up with some ideas around how we could find information to put personas together, ask specific questions. So I was extremely enthusiastic. I said, hey, let's actually turn this into a page. Literally it was like a spider diagram on Figma. And I was like, okay, let's actually see how we can create a page together in the guide about this. So I'll just share my screen. I've done a very, let me just see here. I've added this into the UX research channel. Basically, it's just it's a draft write-up of how to put together personas. It's what we've discussed in the call. It's the ideas that everyone came up with. Questions that we could ask users. And at the end, I added in a link to Patricia's research. Yeah, I'd love some feedback about that. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I'll check the link out. I've got it open in my browser. I just haven't got around to looking at it, but I'll give some feedback. So that's going to be getting to know your users section still. Is that the plan?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be in the getting to know your users, and I think that a write-up about competitive research could also go in there as well. That was also one of the ones that we discussed of possibly putting in there.
Hello. Sorry, I wasn't able to make that last persona user research call. A couple years ago, I worked on a project called Bed.money, and the competitive research is, I think, could be quite valuable. But we could also look at competitors, like is the competitor someone in the Bitcoin industry, or are they kind of like outside as well, right? If we're competing, for example, to replace the someone's money, or you know so like, for example, you can look at like some of the more like traditional fintech applications, whether it's Revolut or something like the USSD stuff on mobile money. I think that could that competitive research stuff could really be useful on the persona stuff.
Yeah, I like that idea of also looking in other industries as well, because at the moment with the competitive research, I've just been comparing apples with apples. But yeah, that's a good one. I'd definitely like to, once I've kind of created a write-up about that, maybe just send it over to you, Johns, if you'd be happy to look at it.
Yeah, of course.
Cool.
Sorry, let me know if I understand correctly. So there's one page about personas, what they are, how they can be used, how to find them. This is kind of the what it is and how to, for builders who are interested and think this is valuable for their project. The second one is gathering personas, research that other people have done, and kind of bringing it together and figuring out where it fits into the guide. So Patricia's is the first part of that. That's just very well prepared, where we might that's the best fit. And then there's other stuff that they could talk. I don't know. We can ask. Wasn't there some other research from Spiral? There might be other stuff too.
There was actually one from Spiral that was done quite recently, about 2 or 3 months ago, I think. I remember that was shared as a PDF in the research channel.
And is anyone interested in doing their own research? That's the hardest part of all of this.
In doing their own?
Yeah, doing your own persona research for your own. Is the LB team, for example, looking to create unique personas for their projects, for their project?
I think they are, and I think that's why kind of the direction with the UX research call, we kind of realized that it's quite tricky, and I'm curious about your thoughts on this. It's quite tricky to create a universal persona because the persona is app dependent. So the persona for the Albi interface will be completely different to Bitcoin Core. So it's a bit tricky in that aspect of adding in a universal persona into the guide. It's tricky. So that's kind of how we went with the how-to route, but I think it's also maybe good to add in Patricia's one and then maybe specify like this is the Bitcoin user. It's just a very general Bitcoin user. It's not specific to an app.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where your persona starts and where it ends. You could have maybe the same persona works for Bitcoin Core and for Daily Spending Wallet and something else, but they're just going to use that different. They have different user stories underneath that persona specific to that project. But you still have, cross-product personas maybe, and then you just have to figure out where that, where that ends in terms of specificity.
So would the idea be to kind of add in Patricia's ones as a page on its own and then add in a how-to as a page on its own? Or would you guys see that as being like one page?
So I mean, go ahead.
I would probably do it as one page since you don't really want to divide people's attention too much, and the how and what a persona is, I think, can fit as an introduction to the list of them, right?
Yeah.
And my personal view is that there isn't just one persona per app, right? Like personas relate to real people, or like a generalization of a group of real people that share some traits, and then each app might attract one or several different types of personas, or it might suit one. But yeah, that's my reading of personas. They reflect real people.
100%. And that's the thing that came across quite strongly in the call. We were like, it needs to be real people. It needs to be that guy Tim on the street, and all of his characteristics. You can talk about him like he's your best friend. And then, and one thing that Hasfa said during the call was that she said that during their meetings, they would actually say, what would Tim do in this instance, Tim would be the persona that they would be referring to, and you'd be like, what would Tim do in this case if he was using this interface or if he was on the screen state? So in that way, they kind of really brought the persona into the product development process. So it was interesting. But okay, so try to add in the personas and then how to, and then Patricia's ones at the end. Okay.
It's interesting. I have a hard time thinking like that. Like, what would this person do?
Yeah.
Because it's, I don't know. I just imagine that person. They just live in my head. They're kind of unrefined. And we just have a few notes on them on how much they earn and where they live. It's kind of tricky, right? But I see personas as a useful tool next to many other useful tools, like the usage lifecycle and where they are and how experienced they are. It's one of the perspectives, and
Yeah.
no perspective is complete or perfect and lets you to make every design decision. But together, they come together overall at different times in different ways to allow you to make good decisions.
Yeah.
But I have a hard. Does that work for you? The thinking about how you, maybe it works for other people. Thinking about Tim.
I think that there's that gap in between, and we couldn't we didn't have time on the call to find that gap. The gap in between is now you have this persona. How do you actually bring that into the product development process, actually with regards to a specific screen state? So I think that's the biggest challenge, and I think that's something we definitely need to address in the write-up. Like, how do you actually bring it closer? Because you can ask the question, what would Tim do? But like, how do you go one layer deeper than that? Because so there's that step in between.
But it takes a bit of effort, clearly, but I think it does work if the personas contain, of course, you're projecting onto this name, but like the more important stuff is like how well versed is this person in Bitcoin or technology in general, and like imagine them during the onboarding flow. Like, what would they do? Well, one of these types might just give up completely. It takes a bit of, obviously, imagination and work, but I think it's much better than nothing, right? Like, if you have, and that's also why I think it's important to have several personas, right? Like the range from super savvy to like, my grandmother, who would probably see the first screen and like stay there for like a minute figuring out what to do. So yeah, I think it's like you said, Christoph, it's just another tool. It's not the one tool, but I think it helps.
Yeah, and one thing it also helps with is alignment, right? There's a discussion about using like archetypes as well, or over personas, or whatever the argument is, but they're comparable things. But you have different teams in a project or a company, and having them be able to communicate about like a certain archetype or persona, and like designing for them. So it could be like the marketing team. How do they like target like a set of users who fit this kind of profile, or the developers who need to fix a bunch of stuff for that user type before it's kind of like promoted to them or something.
There was another interesting point that came up leading off what John said, is that one of the questions that we could ask users, and then I'll stop talking about personas, is that we could ask them, what's one of your biggest pain points? What are one of the things that you really don't like about other Bitcoin apps? And then you would just let that person talk very freely. And that was a question that actually came up from Stephen. So essentially, they talk very freely about what they don't like. You can then translate that into what they do like. You create within your interface what they do like, and then you have a product which a lot of people want and need and actually enjoy using. So figuring out what people don't want helps you to understand what people do want. So get them to talk about, just get them to complain literally, and then you can translate that into something. So yep. But I'll continue working on the user personas page then. I'll send it over to you as well, Johns, because it seems you also seem to enjoy personas. Archetypes, yep. Indeed, source of confusion. Yeah.
Okay.
Empathy as well.
Okay, so sorry, the reason why I pulled up this page here in my background was that, for example, in the Getting to Know Your Users page, we have this made-up hypothetical user. If we have other places like that, those could be places to reference personas, or a reference design might say this is for like this person, and this in that scenario. So it becomes this modular content we can reference.
Yep.
Do we have content around like the pre-coiner, the no-coiner, the bit curious? There's a bunch of these like archetypes and stuff. Do we have content relating to that as yet? Or?
I mean, you're basically, I mean, in a way, you're saying it's people who are
Yeah.
unaware, aware, interested, first use, regular use, passionate use, and you can apply this to your product itself, or you can apply that to Bitcoin as a whole, or whatever you want.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, not for this one.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We have 15 minutes here. What would you like to chat about next? By the way, is it clear on what will happen next with the personas?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. If you guys are happy to have a look at the Google document, I'll send it over to John's as well, and then it seems like it's kind of the top part's going to be like a how-to, and the bottom part is going to be actually Patricia's ones, which I think are maybe 5 or 6 or 7, something like that. So I guess that's kind of the rough structure in mind with regards to the personas page. How to, and here are a couple Bitcoin personas. Yeah, I like that idea. Tell them how to create them and then show them some that have been created.
Is it something you want to own this project, or do you want to partner with other people, or how would you, anything you need basically other than like reviewing the doc?
I'm happy to own it. I'd love input. I mean, I'm happy not to own it as well, and I'm happy to do it together with someone. But yeah, I'm happy to take the lead on that one. Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Okay, how about we then talk about the case study? It's also was something that's a long time coming.
One, yes. Let me pull up. So I have created. Is that in the research channel? I think I put it in the research channel. I'm just trying to pull up the Google document.
There's also an issue for it somewhere, right?
Yeah, there is.
Create a case study section, issue 722.
Yeah, there it is. That's the rough idea that I've created so far. Yeah, so this is a rough draft of the Blix case study. I tried to tell a story. I tried to make the people who actually did the sprint the heroes. So I kind of tried to make a hero's journey, telling the story of the heroes who were the UX designers and the researchers, coming up with a solution to the problem. Yeah, I tried to keep it very visual, not too text heavy, because I felt that keeping it more visual would keep people a bit more engaged and encourage them to keep on reading through it. Yeah, just try to keep it short. So.
Yeah, and for context, the science sprint that started earlier this year, and the idea was to first do an actual like 5-day sprint. Was it 5 days, 1 week or so? A very quick sprint, multiple several-hour sessions to talk to Hampus, the developer of the project, figure out what he wants to achieve, what the project's like right now, what pain points are, and then pick one of those pain points, and come up with an improved design and prototype and test it. And Mo along with Millie, were the troopers who put it all together in the end. Like initially, it was a larger group, which you also kind of need to discuss this, and then when it came down to actually making things happen, it was Mo and Millie. And Mo is the one still standing here, putting together this case study.
Yeah, it's finished now. I needed encouragement from you guys to wrap it up. Definitely need encouragement from you and Johns to wrap that up, because that was my little baby that I didn't want to let go of. But on to more sprints. So we've got the design-a-thon coming on. But yeah, this is a case study, and I'd love some feedback from you guys. Just what I can improve on it, what we can change. Is there any other information you'd like to see? Is it specific enough? Of course, the information that we collected from the research was much wider than what I've shared in the case study. I've only shared in the case study the lightning stuff, the lightning channel stuff. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that came out from doing the usability tests.
Something I don't see here is the context of the sprint. How it was organized, collaborating. So I just briefly looked over it, and it looks like you dove straight into the design challenges.
Yep.
Did you intentionally leave that surrounding context out, or do you want to add it back in?
That's a really good point. You mean like the actual step-by-step process, like we jammed together, we did the design research. Yeah, I know which part you're referring to.
Yeah. I mean, or even just saying, it starts with how do we help new users, and then we got together as a group of researchers. You have something here.
I do have it there. I showed it a bit more. Yeah.
Okay, so you start first with the product, then you provide a bit of context on. Okay, got it. Sorry, then I just missed it.
Yeah.
I expected it at the beginning somehow. Yeah, cool. Okay, we'll provide feedback. Anyone else have questions, thoughts on this?
Glad to see we have a case study. I'll look through the document, leave some feedback on it.
Yeah, well, I was actually reading it and finding it really interesting. So I think it's a great addition to the guide. And it makes me personally think as well, together with the daily spending wallet or sort of reference design, right? Like the huge or the really big issue that developers will face when working with Lightning is the whole channel opening and stuff. It's really complex. I'm struggling with it. So yeah, I'm happy to discuss that further if we have a few minutes at the end. But I'm all for this type of article making it into the guide.
I had a discussion with Jalissa, also from Amber Wallet, and her and I got very enthusiastic about kind of writing about, explaining about Lightning, opening channels in Lightning in a way that a 10-year-old would understand it. Like, how do we actually do that? How do we actually step away from, the explanation which is normal to us and move towards that explanation which is understood by a 10 or a 12-year-old? And it was a really good conversation because we both entered into the industry, with no knowledge. And it's something that I definitely like to talk more about. Educating users in a really simple way. It's like turning on your electricity to get electricity, to get the connection to the Bitcoin network, something like that. I know that sounds highly simplistic, but I feel almost like that's the level we need to get to get people to be okay with using it, like feel comfortable with using it. So it's a whole other discussion on its own. Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone know any 10-year-olds?
Any what?
Any 10-year-olds for testing?
I've got an 8-year-old, but I could try it out on her. Could try just introducing her to the Lightning Network with a couple of pictures, see if she understands.
I have several.
Excellent. Cool.
project introduce the Lightning Network to a 10-year-old. If a 10-year-old can understand it, we put it on the interface.
But you know, at the conference, I met someone from IBEX Mercado, and he was holding a Spanish language school. It's just like a school book this size, maybe 50, 60 pages, all about Bitcoin. And they're trying to get it in El Salvador to actually be taught in schools. I guess that's their goal. So they're saying a big Bitcoin curriculum. You know, I don't know if it's going to be like replace like any main classes or be more like a you know, extracurricular activity or so. But it looked like he had a legit textbook for students, younger students.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody from their company, and I think the way that the like high school system works there, I might get this a little wrong, but I think there's like some kind of like as you get like closer to graduating, there's like these kind of like optional tracks that you can take, like that might be more I guess you might call them like an elective or something like that in the US, but you know, there's like specific tracks that might like prepare you for a specific career or a specific industry or something like that. Students can kind of pick one of those tracks, and so like right now they're doing one of the high schools like a Bitcoin track, to where, you know, so that would be like an elective that you can take and all that.
He said it was open source. I'm just trying to find the link right now. My first Bitcoin. Okay, we'll have
probably
to.
Bitcoin.
I'm sorry?
It's probably Mi Primero Bitcoin. The Steven, we met them, right?
Yeah, it's Mi Primero Bitcoin. Yeah, it's that group.
Let me know if you have a link. Yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah,
I think they're also looking for translators.
Yeah, we got some of the people from that group are in our Slack channel actually. Invited them after the conference, but I'll drop a link in the channel and in the call notes here to that organization. So like the organization itself is like more of like a meetup group, you know, nonprofit type of deal, and then IBEX obviously is a company, but they, you know, provide a lot of support and sponsorship for these types of efforts, I believe.
Yeah, it's cool. Okay, back to the guide. We have a few more minutes. I have to hop on straight to another call. What would you like to chat about? Anybody happy with where they are, knows what they want to do, where they can contribute? Anything else?
Well, this is a topic that's way too big for the 3 minutes we have left, or the barely 2 minutes, but just like a personal reflection and sort of update on what I'm doing and where I'm kind of stuck. So I'm basically trying to implement the daily spending wallet reference design, right? And the content in the guide is approaching awesomeness. You know, it's very clear. It's got all the UX and the UI and a lot of explanations. But as a builder, when part of it is easy to implement, but the things that are really hard is when you get to the channel opening and receive, the first page after the intro is receiving and requesting, basically. And all the hard part there is saying, oh yeah, we can do this by using a Lightning wallet server. And that's basically where I realized that some stuff that I thought I could build just on the phone is not enough. So to do what we think is the best UX for the user, there needs to be a server component, which you either can run yourself as a developer, or ideally, although I don't think there are any available ones yet, ideally you would have an option of several service providers, right? That did exactly what you needed, which is basically opening channels for users on the fly, for example. So it's just a reflection, realization, sharing with this group that all the hard work in building the wallet is basically offloaded in that one sentence. Like, yeah, just uses Lightning servers. So it's kind of where I'm stuck at the moment, because I didn't think I needed to build a server as well, but it's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And I mean, I think that's the one thing that's very different about Lightning versus on-chain is that in order for it to be successful, I think a lot of the open source wallets that are going to be successful are probably going to have this business component where they're running, you know, their own LSP or something like that, which makes perfect sense for a, you know, open source, you know, tech startup kind of business model thing. Doesn't necessarily help you out in the short term with building what you're trying to build here as kind of like a, you know, one-man developer operation. So that wasn't really an answer, but I absolutely see where you're coming from and recognize the issues there. The one thing I could, you know, maybe suggest is maybe talk to, you know, Blake Swallow at Hampus. He's got this, you know, Dunder LSP package. I don't know if that sort of thing could be useful in your situation or what, but that's a problem you're facing, and look forward to talking about that more.
Yeah, I just as well, I just sent you a link on Slack, Daniel, for the LSP spec standard group. It's just a group of developers all working on making a standardized format for LSPs. But yeah, there's a bunch of work getting done in there. It's probably something relevant to what you're working on.
Yeah, thank you. And all of that is appreciated. And I think that's kind of where the ecosystem is at the moment, that the only products that have managed to do close to what we think is right have basically built their own thing. But it seems like there are movements towards sharing a standard and open, you know, making interoperable service providers basically. But we're not there yet. So, you know, a single developer is, that's why there are so few products, right? Like, because it's hard. So hopefully this moves on and it gets easier to do the server component, because the on-device thing has moved on leaps and bounds with BDK and, you know, LDK, which as of yet don't completely work together, but they're close. And I think the last bit that's a big issue is the, you know, async receiving, or the offline receiving, whatever you want to call it, right? That's a huge user friction point as well. The fact that you can't just receive money while you're sleeping.
Okay, feel free to keep chatting. I'm going to stop the recording and hop into another call. Thanks to all who have tuned in.